Hello, everybody. This is Carol Maletta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Parenting 411 podcast. Now, for many of us college sports fans out there, the last few months have been exciting. Lots of thrilling victories and a few surprise upsets. The University of Michigan football team clinched the national title. Congrats to them. And those of you who have been following me since my radio days know that I love all aspects of women's basketball at every level. And so in this season, I've been rooting for my favorites, the Gamecocks of the University of South Carolina, who are still undefeated. We'll see what happens tonight. They play LSU. And indeed, competitive sports are an exciting aspect of the student experience that gets a lot of attention when you think about high school and college. And so today we're shining a light on a critical yet often overlooked issue, an overlooked aspect of college life, and that's food insecurity on college campuses. So I'm honored to have a very special guest with us, Mondi Kumbula-Fraser. Mondi is the Vice President of Government Relations and General Counsel for the Consortium of Universities of the Washington Metropolitan Area, representing a vibrant student community of over 400,000. With her extensive background in educational equity and her passion for advocacy, she's at the forefront of tracking food insecurity among college students and creating solutions. This is a challenge defined by the USDA as the lack of consistent access to enough food for an active, healthy lifestyle. So in today's episode, we're going to uncover the hidden struggles that many students face in securing their next meal and explore what can be done to ensure that every student has the nourishment they need to thrive. Whether you're a parent of a college student or a student yourself, or someone who's just passionate about educational equity, this really is a conversation that you don't want to miss. So let's get started. And why don't you help me welcome Mondi Kumbula-Fraser. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Carol.
So tell us a little bit about the work you do with the consortium and how food insecurity even came up on your radar.
Sure. I have, as you mentioned, I serve as the Vice President of Government Relations and General Counsel. So I handle the government relations and legal affairs for the consortium, which has a number of higher education institutions and over 400,000 students. And as part of my duties, I attend a number of conferences. And I attended a national conference for an organization, the acronym is SHIO, 2 years ago. And actually, yes, now it's 2 years ago. And there was a gentleman there and by the name of Mr. Jack, and he was from Boston University. And he was talking about a book that he had written called The Privileged Poor. And he went into depth about how we have a lot of students who are minority students, lower income students, first generation students. And while they may have an opportunity to attend college, it can be very difficult for them because they may not have necessarily everything that they need to cover their basic needs when they are there. So I think he went to Amherst for his undergraduate degree, if I have my facts correctly. And he said, but you still had students who were suffering from food insecurity, didn't know who to speak to about it, were ashamed or embarrassed if they were going through it because they were surrounded by so many people in these elite spaces. So when I heard that, and he spoke at the time about how approximately 30 to 40% of college students are suffering from food insecurity. I did not know that. I had not heard that, and it struck me. So I went back and I spoke to my boss, and I told him I wanted to do something about this issue, that the consortium should try to address it, and set up a meeting with the Capital Area Food Bank, which does outstanding work in our region for students. And we decided, we said, well, why don't we have a regional college hunger conference to draw attention to this issue? So basically, it really was just attending a conference. Didn't realize he was going to be speaking, but it kind of just struck something in my heart when I heard about it,
Mhm.
uh, that students and people who are trying to advance themselves and advance their community should not have to struggle in that way.
Yes, I mean, like you, I just didn't realize it. I like I said, I'd gotten a hint of it when I read articles about students in the local DC area that got scholarships to elite colleges and full scholarship. And when you hear that, you feel like, oh, they've got it made. This is going to be
Right.
a game changer. And it's like, yes, they're there, but they don't
Mhm.
have extra spending money
Right.
and, for food and other things like that. So, I, like that found this as really an eye-opening development to discover that so many students are struggling with this.
And the statistics he quoted were compelling. And then we heard that for students of color, that percentage increases, and it could be hovering around 70% of Latino students and African American students who are suffering from food insecurity. So it's a very real issue.
And I know in the course of the conversation, we're going to talk about what some organizations, maybe some colleges are doing or, should be doing. But I know that there was some effort during the pandemic to try to address this. And that was where SNAP benefits were extended during the pandemic for college students. And could you talk a little bit about that, about what SNAP benefits are and where things stand now since the pandemic is over? We'll be right back after this. If you're looking to reach a massive audience of parents and caregivers, then look no further than ProPix by the Parenting 411, the ultimate marketing program designed to skyrocket your brand to new heights. With ProPix, we've created 3 incredible packages to suit your marketing needs and budget. So let's take a look. First up is our social starter package. You'll receive a stunning graphic promo piece, plus we'll also feature your brand on the Parenting 411 Instagram page. It's the perfect way to make a memorable first impression and get parents buzzing about your business. Now, if you're ready to level up, our Parenting Pro package is where it's at. You'll enjoy all the benefits of the social starter package, plus more awesome benefits, including exposure on the Parenting 411 podcast, which reaches parents in more than 22 countries each week. But wait, there's more. For those seeking the pinnacle of marketing power, our Elite Exposure package is the way to go. You'll get even more exposure across our platform, including thousands of followers and connections on LinkedIn. Get ready to dominate the airwaves and establish yourself as the go-to resource for families everywhere. Take advantage of ProPix by the Parenting 411 today and unlock unparalleled marketing opportunities for your business. But I should tell you that prices are set to increase on November 1st, so act now. ProPix by the Parenting 411 is your passport to the hearts and minds of parents. Visit ProPixbyP411.com. Join us today and watch the magic happen. And we're back with the Parenting 411.
So the SNAP benefits are for lower income families, and provide them with funds that they can use on a card, so that they can purchase groceries and food in order to help supplement the food that they have in their homes. And there are a lot of requirements for SNAP eligibility, for example, working a certain number of hours, and during the pandemic, because it was a public emergency, there were some measures in place to relax those standards, for lack of a better word, and to take into consideration that people were struggling. And now it's not considered to be a public emergency at this time, as of July of 2023. So now the requirements of having to work at least 20 hours and those types of things are in place. And so it makes it difficult for students to balance your education and also balance your workload. And there are some bills in place or that have been introduced that would perhaps expand eligibility for SNAP requirements for college students on the local level and also on the federal level as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And for those of us who are listening, it's the supplemental nutritional assistance program that we're talking about. And I really do hope that that will be extended. It just should be a matter of course to support college students
Yes,
with that because, and we're going to talk about it, how important good nutrition is to being successful in college. And if we're going to send our children to college and invest those resources, we want them to be in the best possible position to access the instruction that they're going to be receiving.
absolutely, Carol.
Yes. So, do you know anything about where the statistics stand now? Because I know that the Hope Survey had reported that there were about 38% of students in two-year colleges and 29% of students at four-year colleges experiencing food insecurity. But, you know, prior to the pandemic, that statistic was like 30%, which you really don't want to hear about anybody not having a good, reliable source of nutrition. Has it changed much since 2020 in terms of people getting what they need?
Well, it's definitely still an issue, and the Hope Center actually, we had them speak at our regional college hunger conference, as a matter of fact, and they were still, quoting the statistics that you mentioned there. It's still, difficult. There are people who are still recovering from the pandemic, students who lost parents or whose parents lost jobs. Colleges and universities were impacted by the pandemic as well because of fundraising and endowments and other ways that they were able to provide additional financial assistance and scholarships. So some cannot provide as much in the form of financial assistance for students as they had before. So it's an ongoing issue, and the statistics, as far as we know, and as far as what they relayed at the conference, are still in that range, which is shocking,
Hmm.
which is shocking, which is why I was so struck, and you were so struck to hear about this issue.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So let's talk about how that food insecurity affects student health as well as student performance.
So when you think about a student wanting to be successful in college and coming in kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and really wanting to make a difference. If you are hungry, it makes it difficult for you to study. It makes it difficult for you to, and if you can't study on a regular basis because your stomach is growling, it's hard to be successful in your coursework. So it can impact a student as far as the health and as far as their physical health. It can also impact their mental health as well. So you have
Hmm.
students who have lost weight. We have students at the conference, for example, who spoke about living off of one large piece of pizza per day. We and as you can imagine, that's incredibly difficult when you also have courses that you are managing. We had one of our university presidents actually speak at our conference last year or the year before about developing diabetes in college because he too suffered from food insecurity and could only afford the cheap, sugary
Oh,
foods that were
wow.
not particularly nutritious.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about this issue, we're trying to get people to kind of think about it in a way that, yes, you're providing food and you want to provide food, but hopefully you have an opportunity to provide students with healthy food as
Mm-hmm.
well, so that they don't end up with health problems down the road.
Right.
Um, if they're not given a proper nutrition. So if you are a student and you don't know where your next meal is coming from, that also provides a lot of pressure when it comes to your social emotional health, your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're stressed. Will I have enough food? Will I be able to stay in school? And when you think about it, usually if you can't meet a basic need or you're having difficulty there, there may be other areas of your life too where you're having some difficulty and struggles when it comes to finances. So it can have a tremendous impact. I do also want to point out that there's a ripple effect
Mm-hmm.
because if you have students who are enrolled in school and they're not able to complete their degrees because their physical health or mental health is impacted or their academic success is impacted, then it impacts the overall community as well because you have people who may not be able to contribute to the economy, at least in the way that they had intended to, because they're
Mm-hmm.
not able to get certain types of jobs. So if there is a kind of a cycle that is involved as well, and it kind of has a ripple effect for people.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's important to consider. I'm wondering what you're hearing about any kinds of solutions or programs that colleges are instituting on their own
Yes.
because they're recognizing this problem among their students.
Sure. So there are a number of different programs that colleges are looking into. One thing that's important to remember is that all colleges and universities are different. So they don't have one type of uniform solution. Some
Mm-hmm.
have a lot more when it comes to resources than others. So you may have a school or a university that perhaps has a closet with cans of food or something like
Mm-hmm.
that in the back, and you, depending on how it's situated, you students have to kind of walk through because there's a stigma associated with food insecurity, and trying to get students to feel comfortable enough to come forward and talk about the issue and admit that they need assistance. That's a
Mm-hmm.
very, very real issue. So some may have a closet in the back of the room with some cans of food. Then you have other institutions that have benefactors who specifically focus on food insecurity and who might be able to provide a student lounge where food is just around the clock available to students, and no one can tell whether you need it because you're hungry or whether you just happen to be in the lounge, and
Yep.
anyone can come and get it. And so it really just depends. Um, we have nutritious gardening programs at some of our institutions so
Mm-hmm.
that we can make sure that people are getting organic foods and healthy foods. There are some colleges that are provide bags of groceries that
Mm-hmm.
students can sign up for and come and collect. There are
Mm-hmm.
some colleges that are also delivering food to students
Oh, that's good.
and delivering groceries to them so they don't have to come out and receive it. And there are some institutions that allow for you to make donations to the meal swipe cards for students
Mm-hmm.
so that no one really knows that an issue is necessarily going on. Money just kind of shows up there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the issues that the colleges and universities are having is trying to identify which students need it, and making it a situation or an atmosphere where people can feel comfortable sharing that they need assistance is important.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a couple of universities who have something that they call first generation dinners,
Mm-hmm.
where once a week or once a month, if you are a first generation college student, no questions asked, you can show up and a meal is ready for you.
Mm-hmm.
So there are different ways that some colleges and universities are doing their best to address this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about the conference because you had the
Mm.
regional conference, and I'm assuming you all have made it an annual event now.
Yes, yes, we have.
Yes. So tell us a little more about that, the kinds of people that come, and the decision makers that are there, and what they're thinking about, and the impact you feel it's had so far.
Uh, Wonderful question. When I first heard about the issue and then very quickly set up a meeting with the Capital Area Food Bank, and one thing I forgot to mention is that we also took it to and shared this with our board of trustees, and they were very supportive. The board is made up of the college and university presidents of all of the institutions that we represent. And it came together rather quickly. I heard about it in maybe early spring or something or winter of 2022, and we had the conference by October.
Okay.
So I'm very proud of our institutions. All of them participated, and we had it again last year, and we'll have it again next October as well. We have student testimonials because I think it's very important to set the tone
Mhm.
that you don't just have adults who were finished with school talking at each other or talking about this issue, but to hear from students directly.
That's good.
That was a challenge to
Mhm.
get students to come forward and share what their circumstances were. And fortunately, we did have some students who were able to talk about it. As I mentioned, the young man who uh, survives off one piece of pizza. We had a single mother with three children, including a 6-week-old newborn baby. She felt so passionately about this opportunity to speak that even though her daycare fell through, she showed up at the conference with her baby
Mhm.
over her shoulder
Mhm.
and talked about how she felt like she was being penalized because here she is trying to go to school as a single mother so that she can improve the welfare of her family,
Mhm.
their livelihood, but by doing that, having a reduction in food that she could provide for her family. So
Mhm.
the student testimonials have even led to some of our corporate people who watched and listened adopt some of the students, so to speak, and providing them with food,
Mhm.
providing them with mentoring, which just really warms my heart. In addition, we have a panel on best practices from student affairs representatives talking about the pantries and the nutritious food delivery programs. Because what I wanted was for the universities to hear just because you're doing this over here, you might learn something about how you can reach students by talking to this school over here and kind of sharing some of the resources. This year, we added a fundraising component. We had fundraisers come in because some of our institutions have been very successful in being able to secure benefactors to provide food and nutrition for students, whereas others have had challenges in that area. So we had people kind of talk about if you want to get a grant, this is what
Mhm.
they're looking for. This is what you should talk about.
Mhm.
We had an advocacy panel this year, so we've been adding to it each time. And we had legislators from DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and representatives from the administration talk about this issue and their interest in expanding SNAP eligibility requirements for college students so that they would be able to, more students would be able to have access. We also have the president's panel, which I really appreciate our college and university presidents, as busy as they are, taking their time to talk about their experiences. I mentioned one said that he developed diabetes during
Mhm.
college as a result. We had another president who said that she was a first generation student and was dumpster diving when she was
Wow.
in school. Another president spoke about how in his family, he thought vegetables mostly just came in cans because that's what his experience was growing up.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I will say that when you have students who are nervous and in being in some of these academic spaces and feeling like they don't belong and
Mhm.
feeling like they are embarrassed because
Mhm.
they may not have the same financial resources or feeling like they're being judged by someone else. Hearing a college and university president say, I've been there too,
Mhm.
I've had the very same experience, does something. Um, to make more students come forward. And I will mention that one of the legislators had a very compelling story, one of the legislators from Maryland. And
Mhm.
she spoke about how she was a first generation college student, and she knew to make friends with the kitchen staff
Mm.
in order to survive, so that
Mhm.
when they were going to throw food out at the end of the day, instead of throwing it out, they would save some for her. She would meet them in the back in order to collect some food. And that one day, one of the people that one of her contacts was not available. So
Mm.
she reached out and went back and kind of took some food because she was very hungry, and how the staff and the students publicly shamed her. And
Wow.
she said that's an experience you will never forget. She wasn't taking food because she wanted to, she needed food.
Right.
And how that's one of the reasons that sometimes students are afraid to come forward, because you don't know how people are going to react to them. So through the conference, we're trying to change or get rid of the stigma and let people realize how prevalent this issue is.
Mhm. Mhm. How can parents and caregivers address college hunger and support students effectively?
Well, I think definitely people like you, Carol, who have a platform and who are sharing your platform in order to discuss this issue is important. So, speaking engagements, webinars, op-eds to
Mhm.
talk about what is going on, checking in with your students to make sure that they are okay,
Mhm.
especially when you think about some of the first generation lower income and minority families where the issue is even more prevalent. You have some students who don't even tell their parents that they're struggling, because their parents are
Mhm.
just so excited that you're finally there. You're the
Mhm.
first person in the family to achieve X, Y, and Z. And
Mhm.
they're not in a position where they can even come back to their parents to ask for anything, because their parents used everything that they could just to get them there.
Mhm.
Uh, we also have talked about encouraging colleges and universities to kind of think through, like what I talked about the first generation dinner, that
Mhm.
when you, that for some students, the only food that they are going to get on a regular basis is the food that is at school. So perhaps you can leave your dorms open, and some institutions do, and cafeterias open maybe during Thanksgiving or
Mhm.
Christmas, spring break. Everyone assumes someone's going on some lovely vacation. Some people are
Right.
not going anywhere.
Right.
And if they just don't have access to the food, can be in very difficult circumstances. At the conference I mentioned, they talked about students trying to find places to live
Mhm.
during those times because they cannot afford to go home, or their parents can't afford to bring them home. And you don't
Mhm.
want them to be in a compromising situation as well, trying to make sure that they have housing and food at that time. So those are some of the ways that people can help, donating to organizations and causes and people who are involved, attending the Regional College Hunger Conference. Our attendees, as I mentioned, we had legislators, we had parents, we
Mhm.
had students, we have community leaders. We want as many people as possible, faculty from higher education institutions and presidents to hear, so that as more people are involved. And another thing that I kind of think about, this is just on my own. Uh, I know some people who know of students and will just say, We'll take you out." Up
Mm.
there, 10 students, no questions asked. We'll meet them and perhaps offer a meal or bring food or something like that. So just kind of really thinking about it and realizing that students may not necessarily come forward and speak to you. You may have to look a little bit and maybe ask about your friends of your children.
Mhm.
Does so and so have a place to go over the
Mhm.
holidays? Does so and so
Mhm.
seem to have enough food? Maybe they don't, when you're all going out, someone hangs back and doesn't go out
Right.
and pretends they're studying or doing something, but because they don't necessarily have the financial resources to
Right.
participate along with other students.
We'll be right back after this. Are you a parent looking to unlock your potential in raising confident, capable, and courageous children? Well, look no further. Join us at the upcoming Parent and Purpose Summit Back to School Edition, where parenting experts from around the world will come together to share their wisdom and insights. I'm Carol Maletta, founder of the Parenting 411. This summit is your opportunity to gain essential skills and tools to become the parent you've always aspired to be. Over 5 incredible days, we'll dive deep into topics like positive discipline, effective communication, mental health, self-care, school readiness, and more. An attendee from our last summit told us, "This summit changed my parenting game. I feel more confident and connected with my children than ever before." So secure your seat at the Parent and Purpose Summit today. Visit parentandpurposesummit2023.com. That's parentandpurposesummit2023.com. And click the registration button to join us on this transformative journey. The Parent and Purpose Summit, where intentional parenting begins. And we're back with the Parenting 411. And, what about parents that don't have the resources, but they need guidance for how they could direct their student, to tell them if they go away to college in particular, where are some places that they could tell their children to look to help if there's any problem with them getting enough food?
So they can find out, first of all, if they're eligible for SNAP, requirements on the USDA website. And so that gives some
Okay.
information. And then also with your state agencies, I would recommend that they speak to the student affairs,
Okay.
because there are often resources in place that students just don't know about. And a lot of
Mhm.
students didn't even realize, when they had expanded or relaxed requirements for SNAP eligibility, that they were eligible.
Mhm.
Just a fraction of the students who actually were eligible received the benefits because many of them didn't even know about it. So helping them by providing education is very important. And if they go and speak to people at their school, there are a number of resources that they may not have even realized were available. Um, One student also kind of talked about how she puts together her calendar for the week
Mhm.
based on where free food will be available for the week, to kind
Mm.
of do it discreetly. The
Right.
so and so club is having a luncheon. I'll go to that luncheon. This, organization is having free pizza, and we'll go to that as well. So sometimes you'll have colleges and universities that, even if you're not a member of that particular club or something like that, it's kind of an open environment,
Mhm.
and you might be able to participate that way as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then reaching out to organizations that kind of focus on this for students. Mhm.
Yeah. Wow. They have to really be creative and innovative and just really intentional. I tell you, at
Mhm.
a time when they really should be free to be studying and learning and focusing their attention that way,
Right.
but to have to be figuring out how they're going to eat something very fundamental, is really a challenge. I wonder if you had a wish list,
Mhm.
or what would you ask legislators to do to help combat college hunger?
Well, I certainly think it's important, and this is me, speaking in my personal capacity here, not my professional capacity for my wish list, is that making sure that students are aware. There are some bills that kind of talk about making sure that students are at least made aware that SNAP and other, types of programs are available in the first place, because many do not know. And finding a way for, to expand benefits so that more students are able, to take advantage of it. Again, I said that's me speaking in my personal capacity on that.
Hmm.
I think is important. And just making sure that more data is collected
Hmm.
so that you can figure out which, maybe the survey to kind of figure out which students actually do need assistance,
Mm-hmm.
and so that you have more resources available. Because when, like the statistics you were quoting, it's much more compelling when you have percentages that you can share with people when they look around the room and they think, oh my goodness, 30 to 40% of the students in this room are suffering from it.
Right.
There could be additional students who just not have not come forward in order
Mm-hmm.
to share their experiences. I think is very important.
Mm-hmm. So where can parents go, or even concerned people go to learn more about this, and even also uh, your organization, and to maybe learn about the regional conference, like when the next one will be, and
Yes.
all of that.
So the next one will be in October 2024. So we found that October is a good month to do it because it's not too far into the school year, but enough that people have at least started to become acclimated with school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Definitely reaching out, as I mentioned, to some of the administrators and support, uh, food support staff, in the sense that, student affairs, people within their colleges, the USDA website, and finding out more about, SNAP benefits. Capital Area Food Bank, which has been a partner of the consortium, has extensive resources. The Hope Project, as we discussed, has been at the forefront
Mm-hmm.
in surveys and talking about resources and tracking legislation that could be impactful. So those are just some of the resources that are available for people who are interested in trying to help in some way. They certainly can, reach out to me, and find out more about the Regional College Hunger Conference and the consortium. I'm, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about this issue, and no student should ever have to go hungry.
Right.
No student should ever have to go hungry. And as you mentioned, this should be, I won't say a carefree time, because you
Right.
are studying, you are
Yes.
busy, but you should be focusing on studying and those types of things versus having to wonder where your next meal is coming from.
Next meal. Yes. How can people reach you if they wanted to learn more?
Sure. So my email address is mk as in king, f as in Frank, ras as in Sam, at consortium, consortium.org. So mkfraser at consortium.org. And I'm happy to have, conversations, and or they can, certainly call me as well. Um, Happy to share my phone number, 301-802-4044, uh, in case people would like to kind of speak about ways that they can help and that they can assist.
Mhm.
Because considering what the numbers are, that 30 to 40%, depending on whether you're speaking about 2-year colleges or 4-year colleges, every one of us probably knows a student who is suffering from food insecurity,
Mhm.
or our children know
Right.
someone who is suffering from food insecurity or could be suffering from it themselves.
Mhm.
So having that network is very important to make sure that our students are able to achieve all that they are meant to achieve.
Mhm. And, I thank you so much for being here to have this conversation. And what I'm hoping is that, obviously, for people in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, they can connect with you and hopefully easily participate in some capacity
Mhm.
in the regional conference. But what I'm also hoping is that people that are listening from around the country or wherever can really hear from you. Um, what can be done, how they can mobilize the resources in their area to address this, and I hope they'll seek you out for any kind of advice or guidance. I hope that's okay.
That's
Okay
that's fine. I wouldn't have
with
shared my
you.
contact information if it was an issue. This is important. So
Right.
anything I can do to serve, I'm happy to do so.
Yes, and and another thing I hope is that organizations, philanthropic organizations, religious organizations that offer scholarships
Mhm.
or other resources to new college students
Yes.
and all of that, when they're planning that, to think about the fact that there's a very real need for this. And even if it's not formally in a scholarship, I'm hoping anybody listening will maybe consider, at their church or some other kind of
Mhm.
community organization saying, let's figure out how to send our kids off with some resources just for that, like
Excellent
just for
idea.
food.
Excellent idea. That is an excellent idea. Because there are so many students who do need it and may not want to ask, but or when you're checking in uh, on students, maybe bringing additional food, whether it be to stock a pantry or something else as well. Because whereas there are some students who, as we mentioned, are struggling, there are other students who would be able to assist if more of them knew that this was an issue, and there are families and organizations, as you mentioned, who I'm sure would love to contribute.
Mhm, mhm. Well, thank you again. And to our listeners, I really hope you will share this because I know many of us know families, people within our own family that are headed off to college or are already in college. And this is a very serious issue. So share this episode. Continue to follow the Parenting 411 on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And by all means, head on over. If you kind of came in the middle of this episode, head over to YouTube and you can watch the video and see the whole thing, catch up on anything that you missed. But I really hope that in some way, in your small corner of the world, you figure out a way to kind of help, even if it's a matter of just uh, putting 20 or $30 into the hands of somebody's kid that's home for college, just something to give them to make it a little bit easier to make sure that they are getting proper nutrition so that they can succeed in college. Any closing words from you, Mondi?
Thank you so much, Carol, and for the opportunity to speak about this issue, which impacts so many families. And I wanted to also share the website for the consortium overall. It's www.consortium.org, and to stay tuned for the next opportunity to register for the Regional College Hunger Conference. If there is someone who is interested in seeing the materials from the last conference, I'm happy to share that information as well. The Capital Area Food Bank, which was our partner in this endeavor, we have PowerPoints and presentations from some of the people who were presenters at the conference. We even have some video clips of some of the students who have spoken about food insecurity. So I'm always happy to talk to different people. I've had people ask me, as you have here, and different organizations to share this issue. So if having those documents or that background helps you to kind of elevate that issue within your organization or your church, as you mentioned, um, please reach out. We need as many partners as we can in an effort as important as this one.
Sounds good. All right, then. Well, thank you all for listening and can't wait to talk to you next time. But in the meantime, remember that it's never too late to be the parent you want to be. Thanks and talk to you again soon.